Hello everyone, Parallel here and welcome to Star Trek Online. Today I'm going to be bringing you another build video, but in this video I am not just doing a build for any average starship. That's right, this is a very special starship, as you may have guessed from the bridge. This is actually the pride of the Romulans. This ship is the flagship of the Romulan Republic. It was the ship used by Shinzon in the movie Star Trek Nemesis. And that's right, this is the Scimitar Dreadnought Warbird. Now, the Scimitar is a fairly old ship at this point, but I wanted to do a build video anyway to take another look at this ship. I get the feeling that with with all the Tier 6 ships coming out, I believe there will be a new Tier 6 Dreadnought or flagship package coming out in the fairly near future. So I wanted to take a look at this ship one more time and do a build video and see how this ship holds up. The Scimitar is still one of the most powerful ships out there. It has really held up to the test of time. Even though it is just now starting to get overshadowed by some of the recent Tier 6 ships that have come out, it still holds up quite well, and I wanted to, just give this ship one more solid look before it, before it gets replaced by its Tier 6 counterpart. Now, if you've seen any of my build videos, you probably know that I do like to go into a lot of detail. That being the case, I will be providing some timestamps down in the description below so you can skip ahead to certain topics if you are interested. And just a quick disclaimer before I go into the build in detail here, that just want to say that this is just how I like to build my ships. There are very many different ways to build a ship in Star Trek Online, and this is just one particular way that I've found success with, and so I wanted to share it with you, and hopefully you'll find it helpful as I go through the gear and try to explain, why the rationale behind why I've equipped the the gear that I have, and all the other details of my build, my spec, traits, bridge officers, duty officers, everything. So hopefully you will find that useful as we're going through here. Now, right, so once I go through the build in some detail, I will then quickly take a look at the starship Tailor. As I said, this is an older ship, but there may be some people out there who may be interested in this ship and want to see what the visual customization options are available to it. And then we'll take this ship out for a few actual runs. I will do a run of Argala Patrol in advanced difficulty, and also a Infected Space advanced run. And of course, if you've seen in my other build videos, I always like to run a parser. I will be running the STO combat reader, combat meter, that is, and I will of course be recording those runs, and I will, once they're complete, I will take a look at the logs and see how this ship actually performs and break down the damage. Alright, so why don't we go ahead and get started here. I will, at the end of the video, just give you all of my final conclusions as well, just to kind of wrap it all up. Now, before we get too far into the build, I did do one thing differently here from my previous builds. If you've seen some of my other videos, you probably know that I am well invested into anti-proton damage. So most of my builds focus around that damage type. But this time around, I wanted to shake it up just a little bit, and I do have a torpedo on this build. So I will also be, kind of giving you a little bit of a mini review of this torpedo, which is the Crystalline Energy Torpedo. I did integrate this into my build, and I've been doing some testing with it, and I thought it would give you my impressions of how it performs, performs in this build. If you are interested in the Crystalline Energy Torpedo, it actually came from the Crystalline Entity event. This was actually 2 events ago, so it actually was quite a while ago when you could actually get this torpedo. And it is a little bit of a unique torpedo in that it is actually supposedly energy damage, which means that it will benefit from your tactical consoles. So it is kind of a little bit odd for most torpedoes. I'm actually kind of curious to see how well it performs, and I need to do a little bit more research, honestly, to figure out exactly what buffs this torpedo and what doesn't. But I still wanted to give it just a test and see how it actually performs in my build, and when I do the damage parser, see how its damage breaks down. In particular, I'm interested, does this torpedo actually offer any benefits over just slotting a 5th anti-proton beam array? So that will be a focus here as I'm going through the build, but I do want to go through everything in detail, so let's go ahead and start here with my gear. You can see I do have this upgraded to Tier 5U, and when you upgrade to Tier 5U, it does unlock your mastery stat, or your mastery ranks, and as you can see, since this is Tier 5U, it doesn't have a ship trait. It doesn't have a Tier 5 ship trait. It just has the regular 4 tiers that you get. And just real quickly, you can see what the actual buffs are here. You get at Tier 1 a 5% accuracy. At Tier 2, you get your singularity power recharge reduction and charge rate increase. At Tier 3, you get 10% kinetic damage and 10% all energy damage. And then finally at Tier 4, you get your devastating weaponry, which is a 2.5% crit chance. The base stats on this ship are pretty good. You can see the actual base hull here is 53,000. So it is reasonably tanky. It's not up there with the top tier cruisers that have like a 60,000 hull, but it is still, well in there with the mid-range cruisers. So it can be made to be fairly tanky. The ship does have some downfalls though. In particular, this says the turn rate is 3 degrees. I believe the actual base turn rate is 7 degrees per second. In fact, why don't we pull that up here? So if you are interested in actually acquiring this ship, you do need to get it from the C-Store. If I go here to C-Store Tier 5 ships, go down here to the Scimitar, there it is. And if I scroll down here, let's just take a look at the base stats just real quick. As I was saying, the turn rate is, there you go, so yeah, 7 degrees per second base turn rate. The hull strength 40,000, that's at level 50. Once you upgrade it to Tier 5U and you're level 60, you do have 53,000 hull. It does have the 5 forward, 3 aft weapon layout, which is my personal favorite layout. I love this layout just because it's so flexible. You can either go with a forward firing build with beam banks, dual beam banks, or you can actually go with, if you want to use beam arrays, it's perfectly viable with this loadout because you can still have 8 weapons firing broadside. So that is my overall very preferable layout to me anyway, just because of its flexibility. For the bridge officers, you get a commander tactical, very nice. You get a lieutenant engineering and lieutenant science. But here's another great thing about the ship is you get an ensign universal and a lieutenant commander universal. So 2 universal slots and 1 lieutenant commander, that is great. That's a lot of really good versatility that you can take advantage of in your build. That lieutenant commander, you can make it another tactical and have tons of tactical slots. You could make it a engineer to get a little bit more tankiness, or you can make another science officer as well if you would want to, say, run like a gravity well. So just a lot of options on this ship. Fantastic bridge officer layout. The only downside is that, yes, this is a Tier 5 ship, so this was out well before they had, hybrid bridge officer seating with, like, for intel and command and piloting. So you don't have any of those fancy bridge officer stations there. For consoles, you get 5 tactical, 2 engineering, 3 science. Once you upgrade it to Tier 5U, you do actually get 3 engineering and 3 science. So it's a full 11 console slots, which is one of the nice things about this ship as well, is that this ship is basically at fleet level out of the box. You don't have to go to the fleet store and spend a fleet module. As soon as you purchase this and upgrade it to Tier 5U, it is at fleet level. Very nice. That's a nice little perk. The command battle cruisers and like the Vesta are also like that. I believe the Odyssey is also. But it is nice to have that fleet level ship out of the box. Anything else here? Shield modifier 1.1, about average for a cruiser. maybe slightly above average. Battle Cloak, yes, it does have Battle Cloak, and it does have a hangar bay. That is another nice feature. And this ship, as you will see as when I'm going through the build, has one of the best available pets out there, frigate pets. It gets the Romulan drone ship frigate. And you can slot those in that hangar bay. It is a frigate, so you can only have 2 of them out at a time since you only have the 1 hangar bay. But they are really nice pets. One of the best pets out there, honestly. And it does come with a cloaked barrage console. I don't use that console in the build. Basically, I've found this console to be a little bit gimmicky. I will go ahead and just show it here before I go into the build. Here is the console you get. It's a cloaked barrage. Basically, it gives you the ability to fire weapons when cloaked. And it's basically 15 seconds of time where you can stay cloaked and fire your weapons, but then when that is done, you then have -50 to your current weapon power. So it's basically you get a little bit of buff of damage, but then after that you lose quite a bit of damage. I've found this console, it is kind of cool. It is fun for sure. I definitely recommend you give it a try to see if it's to your liking. But after a while of using it, I found it to be a little bit too gimmicky for my tastes. It does have kind of a long cooldown, and you know, you eventually find that there are other consoles that are always active or have lots of other benefits that you know, you could put in its place. But you know, I definitely say give it a try just for the fun factor. All right, so those are the base stats of the ship. There's the mastery. Let's just go through the gear that I will be using. You can see I am going to be using dual beam banks up front. I do want to make this a forward-firing build since I'm also using the Crystalline Energy Torpedo, which has a pretty narrow arc as well. I think it's 90 degrees, so fits right in with all the dual beam banks. I do have them up to Mark 14 Epic. Crit D4, I have 2 crit D4s, and then a crit D3 damage and a crit D3 crit H. For the Crystalline Energy Torpedo, I did bring that up to Mark 14 very rare. That's about all I could upgrade at the moment. I wanted to at least get it to this point just to make sure I gave it a good testing, but I don't have enough tech upgrades to get it up to Epic right now. All right, and then to go along with the weapons, since this is a forward-firing build, I did slot my 3 rear weapons with omnidirectional beam arrays. So I will be using the kinetic cutting beam, upgraded Mark 14. I will be using this. You can get this from the Omega reputation. Fairly easy to get. Pretty low requirements to build this. I also have the ancient omnidirectional beam array, which you can get from the Sphere of Influence episode. That's the first mission there in the Solon A Dyson Sphere. And then I also have an omnidirectional anti-proton beam array. This is the crafted version, and this is up to Mark 14 Ultra Rare. As you can see, since these are all omnidirectional beam arrays, they will all be firing forward, which complements the build quite well. For my space set here, I will be using the Iconian 3-piece. So I have the Iconian Deflector, the Iconian Impulse Engines, and the Iconian Shield. I really like the Iconian set. This is sort of my go-to set now for almost any build, unless I'm going for a more specialized build. But for any generalized, you know, pickup group running, you know, queue running build, I always start out with the Iconian set. I like its balance of offense and defense. All of the pieces you'll see have a lot of good defensive stats, whereas the set bonus itself has good offensive stats. So let me quickly show that here. So the deflector array, you can see, gives you 17.5 kinetic damage resistance rating, gives you 5 shield power setting, and then it gives you some bonuses to shield emitters, structural integrity, and shield system. So lots of good defensive stats there on the deflector array. For the engines, they give you 5% defense. You know, not great, but you know, I am running reciprocity on this build, so you know, it helps. It's useful. It does also give 5 engine power setting, and when at 100% throttle, it gives you some energy damage resistance rating. Kind of handy. And then the shield, which I do like a lot. This is Resilient Shield, the Iconian Resistance Resilient Shield. It gives you 8,100 maximum shield capacity. I do have it at Mark 14. I didn't upgrade the other pieces. I just left those at Mark 12, but the shield I did get up to Mark 14. It does give you, reduces all energy damage to shields by 20%, which is kind of nice. A little bit of shield hardness there. It gives you hot restart, which is cool. Removes a shield disable condition after 1 second, which is also pretty nice. So pretty good shield there. And the reason why this, the Iconium resistance set, enable visuals, what did I do? Where's info? That's what I wanted. The reason why this set is so good for, or so well-rounded, I guess, is because even though all the pieces have those nice defensive stats, the actual set bonus is a good offensive boost. So you can see here, the 3 set bonus is Energy Augmentation Actuator. It gives you, when firing energy weapons, 5% chance to increase your all energy damage by 15% for 8 seconds, and it gives it to allies within 10 kilometers, and it stacks 3 times. So that's a 45% all energy damage buff. I believe it is category 1, but it's still pretty a solid buff there, and it gives it to your allies as well. So I do like that that set bonus there a lot. The 2-piece set bonus is nothing too special. Enhanced shield distribution. Basically, when you distribute your shields, it gives you a moderate shield regeneration. It's nothing too great, but it is modified by shield emitters. So if you're running like a tank build with lots of emitter skill, could be a reasonable amount of regen. So that is the Iconian Resistance set, and of course you get all 3 of these pieces from the Iconian Resistance reputation. You will have to get it all the way up to rank 5, so to get all the pieces. Now to complement that, I do have a Singularity Core here, and I will be using the Elite Fleet Thoron Infused Singularity Core. This is what you get from your Fleet Spire. So if your Fleet Spire is at rank 3, you can go there and purchase this for fleet credits. It's not too expensive, honestly. It's pretty cheap as far as fleet credits and dilithium go. I think it's right around 10 to 15,000 around there. You can see the mods I use there. Of course, it has AMP. That is one of the main things. It also has Res, which gives you that all-important subsystem power drain resistance. As you can see there, 10% subsystem power drain resistance. Basically what that does is all of your weapons will drain 10% less power while they are firing. And reducing your weapon power drain is very nice because it helps keep your weapon power subsystem power level high during your firing cycle. So that's why this is a really great core. And of course also the AMP bonus is there. So nice little Singularity Core. For devices, I just have here the Temporal Negotiator. This is the device you got from the Delta recruitment event. It does have a kind of a long cooldown. I believe it's 5 minutes, but it does give you, that one-time little recharge reduction to all of your bridge officer powers. So it is still a pretty decent little device there, but you can only get that from the Delta recruitment event. Alright, so let's go through the console layout I'm using here. I do like the console setup here. I do like 3-3-5. I do like that better than 4-2-5, which seems like a lot of the ships have been having recently. A lot of cruisers have having 4-2-5. I like having at least the 3 science consoles. That's nice. But as for what the consoles I will be using, I do have the Shield Absorptive Frequency Generator, also known as the Valdor console. I believe this is a key console for any Romulan. If you're looking to slot just one defensive console, this is definitely the go-to one for Romulans. As you can see what it does here, it gives you, when any of your shield facings are below 90%, you have a 2.5% chance for all energy weapons to restore shields for 200% of the outgoing damage. That is pretty powerful. It is more powerful than it sounds, because anytime you can have a shield heal that scales based on your outgoing damage, that's really good. Because when you're building for damage like this build, that will give you a lot of shield regeneration just passively from shooting at the enemy. It adds up being a lot you know, if you look at your parse at the end of a battle, you will see that you get a lot of shield healing from that console. It's very, very nice. All you have to do is purchase the Valdor Tier 3, I believe, ship from the C-Store, and it has that console on it, and you can use it on any of your other warbirds. And in fact, I've even seen some pretty decent tanking builds out there for the Scimitar. It is a very flexible ship, and you know, it is very dependent defensively for, you know, to use this console. You know, to make it more of a takey or defensive ship, you really need to use this console because of all the, you know, the shield regeneration that it provides. All right, let's keep going here. I do have a Plasmonic Leech on here. Plasmonic Leech is another one of those consoles that's great on pretty much every build out there, particularly Romulans, since they have singularity cores that give you, you know, base power levels, you know, lower base power levels than warp cores, because with a singularity core, all your base power levels start at 40 power instead of 50, and the Plasmonic Leech really helps to get your power up there, to get all of your power levels up to 75 or higher to take advantage of your singularity core's amp bonus. You can see here what the Plasmonic Leech does is that basically when you are firing your energy weapons, it will steal power from the enemy. It will drain 1 power from them and give 1 power to you. That's 1 power to all of your power subsystems, and it stacks 8 times, and it is affected by flow caps. So your flow capacitor skill will buff this. It will buff it very significantly, honestly, with even just maxing out just your flow caps skill. You can get it up to 2 power drained per stack. So 8 stacks, 2 power per stack, that's 16 power to every subsystem right there, just from that console. So obviously very, very good. Make sure, you know, if you can get this, definitely do so. It is very expensive. I believe it's hovering around 90+ million on the exchange. So it is, yeah, it's getting more and more rare now because it's one of the older lock boxes. But if you can, definitely save up for it and get it, because it does help a lot. I am also using the Assimilated module. This is another Omega Reputation Universal console you can get. And I'm using this because it gives you, oops, let me mouse back over here, because it gives you the 10% crit severity and 1% crit chance. But I'm also using it because it has a 2-piece set bonus with a kinetic cutting beam. And let's go ahead and do info on that. When you have both of these equipped, you get the set 2 bonus Omega Weapon Amplifier. Gives you a 2.5% chance to self to apply Omega Weapon Amplifier. And basically whenever that happens, it happens quite often, honestly it procs quite a bit. Gives you 10 current weapon power, and the big thing that it gives you is this: 500 current weapon power resistance rating and max weapon power resistance rating. Basically when this procs, it hugely reduces the weapon drain from your firing your weapons. So basically when this procs, your weapons drain a lot less power from your subsystem during the firing cycle, and it keeps that power nice and maxed out. Alright, let's get onto the science consoles here. This here is one of my new favorite consoles. It is the Temporal Disentanglement Suite. This console you get from the Butterfly episode in the Iconian story arc. And it is actually a very nice console. I love that it gives you both defensive and offensive capabilities. And honestly, with the recent nerf to the plasma consoles, this one here has kind of filled in. And, you know, I've really enjoyed having this console. I do like balanced consoles, like the Iconian Space Set has a nice balance of offense and defense. This console also provides that. As you can see, it gives 4 auxiliary power. It gives you 20% to your maximum shield capacity, so that's very nice. A little bit of extra bonus shield capacity there. Gives you a scaling crit chance and crit severity buff, up to 2.5% crit chance and 10% crit severity. This is based on your auxiliary power. And if your auxiliary power is at 100 power, then it will give you that full bonus. And you know, with Plasmonic Leech going, and since I'm running a Drake build, I will be keeping my auxiliary power high, and so I should be able to take full advantage of it. Honestly, if you're going to run like an aux to bat build where it's going to be draining your aux power, honestly, this console probably would not be very good. This would be more for any kind of a build where you're keeping your aux power high. And you can see it also reduces damage to shields by 3%, so nice little hardness buff there too. So there is that, and let's take a look at the next two science consoles here. I am using the Plasma Generating Weapon Signature Nullifier, also known as the Plasma Console or Embassy Console, because it gives you it adds a Plasma Explosion proc to all of your energy weapons. And you can see down there, 2.5% chance to do 1300 plasma damage and ignores shields, and it is an explosion, so it hits multiple things. It's a very nice little proc. And since it can go into your science slots, you can stack them up, and they do stack up quite well. It also gives you a modifier. You can choose the one you want. Some people choose particle gens, you know, based on what build you're going for. In this case, I chose flow as the modifier, so they give you flow cap skill, and that helps with your Plasmonic Leech, drain even a little bit more power. And finally, for the tactical consoles, I will be using Vulnerability Locators, Mark 14, with anti-proton damage. You get these from your Fleet Spire as well. These are pretty expensive consoles, honestly. They take 50,000 Fleet credits and I think 10,000-ish dilithium. So to get a full suite of 5 of these, you're going to need 250,000 Fleet credits. So definitely save up for that. But these are definitely a massive step up from your regular, you know, standard consoles like anti-proton mag regulators, which don't have the crit chance bonus on there. You stack these up, you know, you're getting, you know, quite a bit of extra crit chance, you know, 9% crit chance just from that. That's a very significant buff. So definitely save up for those. And finally, that brings us down to the hangar bay, which is the I will be using the advanced Romulan drone ship. I don't have the elite Romulan drone ships. I probably could splurge and get them just because I actually do have enough fleet credits saved up now. But this is a very, very nice pet. Even the advanced version is still quite good. You can see there it does have, it is a frigate pet, so it is quite durable. It can actually take a few hits, unlike fighters. And it has a disruptor beam array, 3 of those. It has plasma torpedoes, multispectral emitters. Not sure what that is. That might be it does have a cool little ability where it will change its appearance to the enemies in the area, which is kind of cool. It'll turn into little Borg probes if you're fighting Borg. It'll turn into little birds of prey if you're fighting Klingons. So it's a very cool little ship. It also has beam array overload, beam fire at will. It's got emergency power to shields. And just very cool. It's just got so many abilities. It's a great little frigate pet for sure. One of the strengths of the Scimitar. It's unfortunate that there really aren't very many ships that can slot this. If you could put this on like the command battle cruisers, that would be really nice, but unfortunately you can't. Alright, so that is all the gear I will be using. Hopefully that was helpful. Let's keep going here through the skills. I will just show these quickly. I don't want to explain these too much. I just want you to be aware of what skills I am using. You can see here my tactical systems. I'm mostly invested into energy weapons. I am using the Crystalline Energy Torpedo, which honestly probably would benefit. I probably should invest more into the projectile, the 2 projectile weapon skills here. I just haven't done that. I haven't wanted to swap out my build just yet. I want to test out the torpedoes just to see how they perform out of the box before I go too much into respecking. Here for my engineering, pretty standard here. The only thing here is just make sure you max out your EPS. That's important if you're running a high weapons energy build and you're going to be overcapping your weapons. You want to have enough EPS to you know, to keep your weapon power maxed out during the firing cycle, and EPS will help with that. For science, not very much investment there. Just make sure you get your flow caps maxed out to help with your Plasmonic Leech. And that's it for the skills. For my spec points, I'm invested into intelligence and pilot. For intelligence here, you can see I'm all the way down the intelligence tree for all the space abilities. In particular, the space flanking is a very nice ability in intelligence, and then the intelligence fleet is also quite good. So that's where I'm invested there. For pilot, I've just invested just enough points to get down here to rock and roll. Eventually, I do want to fill out the rest of this tree, so I will be able to get, unlock the pedal to the metal trait. Very nice trait for like escort type builds. But until I have enough points to go down there, I do have 8 points saved up, so I might actually be spending that soon. I might invest a bit more, but that is where my pilot tree is right now. Rock and roll is just a very nice skill. It makes you do a basically makes your ship go into a roll for 4 seconds, and you're invulnerable to all damage. Pretty good little oh shit ability, and good for nullifying big one-shot attacks like the Crystalline entity ability. So very handy for that queue. All right, let's head over to traits here. Now for my personal traits, I don't own any really expensive traits, unfortunately. So here's just kind of a standard build with mostly out-of-the-box type stuff and some traits you can get as rewards for missions and whatnot. But let's just go through them quickly here. I do run accurate for the 10% accuracy. Elusive for the 10% defense, helps out with reciprocity. Romulan operative. Since I am a Romulan, I do definitely like this ability. This is an amazing ability. The racial trait that Romulans get that gives you 1.5% crit chance and 3.8 crit severity, and reduces your recharge on your cloaking. Your bridge officers can also have the superior Romulan operative ability, which I will show when I go through bridge officers, but this is honestly one of the key power points of the Romulans. This is why Romulans are, top DPS out there, because their racial ability to increase crit chance and crit severity is so powerful, and all of your bridge officers can have it. Stacks up, it makes Romulans just have insanely high crit rates. Next one here, I have Beam Barrage. This trait you need to unlock from your R&D schools. So if you go out in your R&D Beam school, if you get this up to rank 15, it will unlock that skill. The skill gives you 2% all beam damage for 30 seconds and stacks 3 times. Not too bad of a trait, since this will stack up each time you use a beam skill, and so like beam fire at will. And since the beam fire at will cooldown is less than 30 seconds, you can pretty much keep this up permanently, and it will stack 3 times. So just kind of a 6% bonus damage. That's up pretty much all the time. Here I have Warp Theorist, and I mostly just like this because it gives you the extra EPS, so a little bit nice there. I'm also running Last Ditch Effort for the increased damage resistance when you use go down fighting. This is not, the best skill out there, honestly. If you do have one of those nice lockbox traits like, Inspirational Leader or Wing Commander, definitely you could put that here instead of Last Ditch Effort. This is one you could swap out quite easily. And next is Anchored. This is another trait you can purchase. This one's actually quite cheap though, because it is a little bit more situational. This trait basically gives you a stacking buff when you are standing still. It is a very, very nice buff because it stacks up 4 times and gives you plus 5% all damage. That is a true all damage, just like Attack Pattern Alpha. It does buff everything. And it stacks up to 4 times when you're standing still. The downside is that it also gives you the -5 to all damage resistance rating. So makes you, quite a bit more squishy when you are standing still. So make sure if you are going to use this trait, you do have some good defensive cooldowns ready to go when you are standing still and stacking this up. Next trait here is Point Blank Shot. This is another trait you can get from Iconian episodes. I don't remember the exact one. It's in the Iconian story arc, and you can get this as a trait as one of the mission rewards. And it is a very nice trait because It gives you a stacking bonus energy weapon damage based on your distance to the target. So basically, it says here maximum bonus is at 2 km and no effect beyond 6 km. So basically, as long as you're staying within 6 km, which you should be anyway, because of damage fall off, you want to be as close to the target as possible anyway. So this naturally just synergizes with that. You know, as you're piloting, you want to you want to keep yourself close to the target anyway, so you might as well have this trait and do more damage. And finally here, I do have Crippling Fire. Again, another trait you could easily swap out for one of the better lockbox traits. Basically, all this does is gives you puts an accuracy debuff whenever you get a critical hit. Again, something you could very easily swap out, although it kind of helps with reciprocity a little bit. In fact, I'm actually quite tempted. I believe there is a projectile kinetic precision plus 10% shield bleed through for all projectile weapons. I wonder if that would help out with the Crystalline energy torpedo. That might be worth a try. It looks like I can't swap them out here while I'm on the bridge when I get out into space. I might try give that a try. Swap that out for kinetic precision. I'm not sure if that actually affects the Crystalline torpedo or not, but hey, why not? Give it a try. So let's move on here to starship traits. My first trait here is all hands on deck. Again, another staple trait, good on almost every build. This trait gives you a recharge time reduction on science abilities and captain abilities. And that's actually very good. Not much out there will give you a recharge time reduction on captain abilities. This recharge reduction can happen once every 5 seconds, and it happens whenever you activate a tactical or command bridge officer ability. So as long as you're out there spamming your attack patterns and your beam fire at wills, then you'll be getting lots of recharge reduction for your science and captain abilities from this trait. So very, very good trait. Great on almost any build, particularly science builds, exotic damage builds. Really good take advantage of this trait. You can get this trait from the command battlecruisers in the sea store. You have to purchase the command battlecruiser. The tactical variant has this trait on it. So if you are interested in those, they are decent ships, so it's definitely worth a look there if you are interested to get this trait. Next one here is emergency weapon cycle, another decent trait. This trait you actually get from the the actual battle cruiser, tier 6 battle cruiser bundle, like the Avenger, the Morrigu, and the Kurak. If you unlock those ships, you will be able to get this trait, and this trait is also quite nice. You can see here it gives you minus 25% weapons power cost for 30 seconds and 20% haste to your firing cycle. And this was recently buffed, so it actually works now, this firing haste, and that's actually quite nice. 20% helps to, makes your weapon cycle slightly shorter and your weapons go through a little bit faster. So it is quite good. It's a quite good trait. You do have to be running emergency power to weapons to take advantage of this. And as I said before, I am using a Drake build, which when I explain my duty officers, I will explain how the Drake build works. But basically with the Drake build, your emergency power to weapons will be up pretty much 100% of the time. So you'll be taking good advantage of this trait. Next, I am using Reciprocity. And Reciprocity is another great trait, and as you can see, I'm actually on a Romulan. That's right, Romulans can now get Reciprocity, and so can Klingons. This trait, if you're Romulan or Klingon, you do have to purchase it. It did come out of one of the recent lockboxes where you could actually just have this trait separately. Typically, if you're a Federation character, you could get this trait from just purchasing the Intel Phantom Escort, and then you could unlock this trait. But now Klingons and Romulans can get it too through the lockbox. You could buy this on the exchange. I think I paid 30 million, but I'm not quite sure what the current price is. But definitely a really good trait, because as you can see, whenever you are missed, it gives you a minus 10% recharge time on intelligence and tactical bridge officer abilities. So very nice for reducing the cooldown on your, beam fire wills, your attack patterns, all that good stuff. And if you are running, you know, in a pickup group and you're doing, you know, a good amount of damage, you will be getting aggro. So this is a good, you know, and when you have aggro, a lot of enemy ships will be firing on you, and they will be missing. You know, some of their shots will miss, and that will give you a lot of good recharge reduction. About the only time you don't want to use this trait is if you're like in a actual pre-made group and you have like a dedicated tank who's going to be taking all the aggro, then you could probably unslot this and go with something else. And finally, the last trait I'm using here is Weapon System Synergy. And this is to try to help out with my Crystalline Energy Torpedo, because this trait here gives you a buff. Basically, each time you use a directed energy weapon, you stack up a Weapon System Synergy buff, and when you get to 10 stacks, your projectile weapons will become primed and deal additional damage and shield breakthrough, or bleed through. So basically, you firing your energy weapons, they stack up to 10, and then your next torpedo will get a damage buff and shield bleed through buff. But once you use it, it will not gain stacks again for 20 seconds, so it does have a little bit of a cooldown there. You do get this trait from the Veteran Destroyers. So in order to get the Veteran Destroyers, you do have to be a 1,000-day veteran, I believe, or a lifetime member. Then you can freely get those ships and then unlock this trait. Alright, for space reputation traits, I do use, of course, Precision for 4% crit chance, one of the best traits out there for space reputation. I'm using Advanced Targeting Systems for the 16% crit severity, another excellent trait. Now for the last two traits here, I do really like the new Kara traits. So this is the Auxiliary Power Configuration Offense and Auxiliary Power Configuration Defense. These give you a very nice stacking buff to all damage and accuracy based on your auxiliary power. And as I mentioned, you know, since I'm also running that console, and I do want to keep my auxiliary power high, and that means these two traits will benefit greatly from that. So the offensive trait gives you the all damage and accuracy based on your aux power, and the defensive one gives you kinetic damage resistance, all energy damage resistance, max hit points, and max shield capacity, all based on your aux power. You can see the actual numbers are not calculating here, but yeah, why don't I head out into space here. Let's go ahead and leave the bridge, head out into space and take a look at the actual numbers. I'll just pan around here real quick just so you can take a look at the bridge that does come with the Scimitar. It is a pretty nice looking bridge. They do actually use this bridge in a few of the episodes. You might actually recognize it in some of the episodes whenever you board a Romulan ship like the Lasette. It does use this map, which is pretty cool. It has this other room over here. Doesn't really have anything too special. You know, you can access your account bank here, library files and whatnot. But it is a pretty cool looking bridge. Alright, so let's go ahead and leave and head back into space. And we'll take a look at the stats that you get from those two new Kara traits and finish up with the rest of the build. So here it is. Here is the Scimitar. Take a look at here out in space. And let's pull up the stats again here. Traits. So you can see right now with my aux power is only at 63. I'm getting a 3% all damage. It is category 2, so it is a nice all damage buff and accuracy. And here I'm getting 12.7% kinetic resistance and all energy resistance and 3% max hit points and shield. This does scale up as your aux power increases, so you know, once my Plasmonic Leech is doing its work in combat, these will scale up. I do actually really like these traits. As long as you're running a high aux power build, I do recommend both of these traits. In particular in my case, since I'm running anchored, I do want to use the auxiliary power configuration defensive, just because without this, that stacking debuff from anchored will stack up and make you really squishy. This helps to mitigate that a bit. Now, what did I want to do? Well, yeah, I wanted to swap out Crippling Fire for Kinetic Precision. Let's go ahead and do that. And for my active traits, I'm just using the 4 space active traits. Quantum Singularity Manipulation, Biomolecular Shield Generator, and Deploy Sensor Interference Platform. That's the new one from Iconian, Reputation, and Refracting Tetryon Cascade. All right, let's take a look at Bridge Officers. So yeah, this is one of the nice advantages of the Scimitar, because it does have 2 universal Bridge Officer slots, including 1 Lieutenant Commander. So that's actually a very nice benefit. Makes for a very flexible build style. I actually typically run this as an Engineer, because I like to use that that Lieutenant Commander slot there for Emergency Power to Weapons 3. But in this particular build, since I am using a Torpedo, I wanted to use more tactical slots so I could fit Torpedo Spread in there. So, like I said, very flexible with that Lieutenant Commander Universal. It also has an Ensign Universal to also help out to, shore up any weaknesses in your build. In this case, I did make that an Engineer. And, okay, so the build here, I do have Attack Team and then 2 Beam Fire at Wills, 2 Torpedo Spreads, and then Attack Pattern Beta and Omega. For my Engineering, I am running Emergency Power to Shields and Emergency Power to Weapons. Basically, as part of my Drake build, this is kind of the key to the Drake build, where you need to have 2 Emergency Power to Subsystem abilities slotted. So I have Shields and Weapons. I am also running Engineering Team just to get a little bit more hull heal and clear those debuffs. And in my Science slot here, you get a Lieutenant Science. I am using Science Team and Hazard Emitters. Pretty staple abilities, Science Team to clear those debuffs and heal your shields. And Hazard Emitters also clear like Plasma Fires and give you a pretty solid hull heal. And it even gives you some damage resistance to your hull while it's going. So that's my Bridge Officer layout. I am using all Romulans. Since I am a Romulan captain, I can use Romulans in every slot, and every single one of these Romulans does have Superior Romulan Operative trait. Let me go here to just one of them. I'll pull up. You can see it is right here, Superior Romulan Operative, which gives you the 2% crit chance, 5% crit severity, and 15% recharge on your cloaking. And it stacks. So with 5 Bridge Officers, there you go, 10% crit chance and 15% crit severity. Or no, 25% crit severity, sorry, with 5. So that is one of the big advantages of Romulans. And when you go through, and I'll show you the ship stats here out in space, you will see the crit rate that Romulans can get is pretty crazy. But before I do that, I do want to finish up the build here by taking a look at the Duty Officers. Now, the Duty Officers, let's go here to Active Space Officers. Again, this is also part of the Drake build. So one of the keys to the Drake build is running the 2 Emergency Power to Subsystem abilities. And on top of that, you need to also run Damage Control Engineers. I am running 3 of them. And they are rare quality, just because the very rare ones are quite expensive. And these actually seem to work. If you're willing to run 3 of these, you can get away with running rare. You can see each one of these gives you a 30% chance to reduce the recharge time of all of your Emergency Power to Subsystem abilities by 30%. So basically, when you trigger each one of your Emergency Power to Weapons or Shields, each one of these Duty Officers has a 30% chance. So you get 3 30% chances to reduce the recharge time on both of those abilities by 30%. And as long as one of those triggers every 30 seconds, you're golden, because that will mean that each one of your that means that both of the abilities will be up permanently, since they have a 30-second duration and a 45-second cooldown. As long as you get that 30% recharge time to proc once on either of the activations, you will have both of them up permanently. the downside of the Drake build is that it's not, you know, perfect. There will have times where the, you know, emergency power abilities will drop off just because of bad RNG or whatever may be the case. But, you know, the advantage of the Drake build is that you only have to slot, you know, one copy of each of these, and you can keep it up almost permanently. So it's if you're on a ship that's light on engineering slots, this is a good build for that. And it doesn't have some of the disadvantages of other builds, like, you know, like aux to bat, where you always are at low aux power. This one you can keep your aux power high and, you know, just take advantage of those 3 damage control engineers to keep those buffs up nearly 100% of the time. I am also running Agent Nerul because he gives you a little bit of hull healing when you have attack pattern beta going, and I am running attack pattern beta on this build. You get him out of the Delta Operations pack, which is another C-store purchase, so if you're interested in him, you have to get the Delta Operations pack. And I'm also running a Con Officer to reduce the recharge time on Tactical Team and give it a buff, so those are the 5 duty officers that I'm running. The key thing there again is the 3 damage control engineers for the Drake build. Alright, so that is the full details on the build. I hope that was helpful. I do want to now spend some time, actually since I'm out here in space, why don't we quickly, just to sum up everything that this build has to offer, was take a look at the stats in space, so we get a look at everything totaled up. So you can see it does have a 3,000 crew. That's actually quite a bit. So it's a very large ship, lots of crew. You can see here my EPS rate is 13.8 per second, maybe slightly above average. You know, I'm not running a conductive RCS console or anything, so it's not the best EPS out there, but it seems to do okay. I don't see too much tipping below cap, you know, when during the weapon cycle, but it does happen. Let's go to full throttle here. So you can see what my defense is at full throttle. About 101% defense at full throttle. I do have 75,000 hull, so pretty solid hull for a warbird. Not as high as maybe some of the top cruisers out there, but still pretty good. What else we got? Shield capacity of 13,000. Again, pretty good for a warbird. You can see my resistance rates here. 28% kinetic resistance and about 20-ish% all other resistances. Bonus accuracy 33%, and here is the big thing. That's right, because of Romulans are so OP, you can get your crit chance up to insane levels. You can see here out of the box a 32% crit chance. So yeah, very, very nice crit chance. And then crit severity of 111%. And down here you can see what I consider to be the #1 downfall of the Scimitar, and that is its inertia rating. You can see it's a very low inertia rating of 20. That means this thing handles like a tub. This thing like slides around and is very hard to maneuver. You can see here my turn rate is actually 13%. You can see me turning here. You can get kind of an idea of what the actual turn rate is. Not the worst turn rate, honestly. There are cruisers out there that are slower, or carriers are slower than this. So you can make it work with the forward firing build, but you will be using evasive maneuvers a lot to, you know, to bring your weapons to bear if you do need to make a sharp turn. So, you know, keep that in mind as far as turn rate goes. Here's the turn rate with evasive maneuvers. Pretty good. You know, once you have evasive maneuvers going, you can pretty much swing around real fast and get your weapons onto bear of your target. But here's the thing. The thing with this ship is the inertia rating. So I'm just going to just show you real quick kind of what I mean. How this ship just slides around. It's just very hard to control. It takes a lot of practice, you know, piloting practice to get this thing to behave how you want and to get it in position how you want. I'm a little bit rusty on this ship myself. I've been flying the Tier 6 Tier 6 Mogai, so That is a very maneuverable ship. I'm just not used to the Scimitar. But yeah, let me just show you what I mean here as far as the inertia. What I'm going to do, I'm going to kick it into full impulse and then drop out of full impulse and come to a stop. And you will see how much this thing glides. Hopefully I can show it here. So at full impulse, here we go, cruising along. Let's drop and come to a full stop. And here, let's see. You can see how I'm skidding. See how the contrails are going to the side, but I'm still traveling in this forward direction even though I'm turning. That's the inertia at work. Basically, when you bring this thing to a full stop, it takes forever to actually stop. You can see here I'm gliding again. My contrails are going way off to the side. The turn rate is still decent. You can see I can still complete the turn. It's just the inertia keeps me going how it was. So, you know, in the direction of travel. So it's just something you got to plan for. That's pretty much what I think is one of the downfalls, I guess, or disadvantages of this ship is that inertia rating. It just makes it so hard to control. But with some practice, you can get there. It's just something you got to learn. So yeah, just keep that in mind. All right, so those are the stats of the ship. I think we're ready to give this thing a proper look in the ship Tailor and see what customization options there are. Let's head down to Delta Quadrant Command and take a look. Thank goodness the lag seems to be a lot better now. I was trying to make this video earlier today and the lag was so bad that it was not working out very good. So, but it looks like it's better now, so hopefully I can get a good run here in Argala and a good run in ISA, so you can get a good idea of how this will actually perform, you know, how this build will actually do. Alright, so let's take a look here. Now, before I go into the ship Tailor, I do have the Iconian shield on here. I'm going to turn off those visuals just for now so you can actually see the base ship. Alright, and here it is. Definitely a very imposing ship. I'm sure you've seen a lot of this ship in the game. It is a very popular ship. It's also a very large ship. Scale-wise, this ship dwarfs a lot of other ships out there. It's bigger than, you know, most of the flagships. But I think Cryptic did a very good job. The ship artist, for sure, did a very nice job making this look like the actual Scimitar from the movie. Definitely a very imposing profile. Very, definitely looks like a dreadnought, that's for sure. Now, it does have some good options here for customization. Basically, this allows you can mix and match the parts from the other variants of the ship. So the engineering variant, the Falchion, and the science variant, the Tulwar. You can mix and match the different parts from those other ships. In particular, I like the... I wish I had purchased the Tulwar because I really like the... I think that's the Tulwar wings. Yeah. The Tailor wings have this cool glow effect here, and then also have this little hole in the wing, which I actually really like. Kind of highlights, yeah, that kind of the glowing outline really highlights the ship a lot. So, and the Tulwar is actually a good ship in its own right, for sure. So definitely worth unlocking, if not for the visuals, but also for the ship itself. It also has some skins here. It does have, each of the variants has its own skin. So the Falchion skin looks like that. You've got your, let's tilt it down a little bit more. You can see the skins, the Scimitar, and then the Tulwar. They each have their own little skin there. Pretty nice looking. It has your standard Romulan skins. You got your Reman Type 1 and 2. Your Romulan Type 1, Romulan Type 2, and then your Romulan Type 2 Brown. You also got your veteran, if you have the veteran rewards, that is the skin you get. And then also the upgrade skin, if you have it at Tier 5U. I actually really like the upgrade skin. It has a kind of a cool, I'm not sure, kind of a cool texture to it. It looks almost like metal plates, kind of. It looks very cool, and it even has kind of that metallic sheen to it. You can kind of see the reflections there. I like that a lot. Though for my build, I've been actually using the brown color because it matches really well with the Iconian shield, I think, which you saw out in space. I think it matches the color scheme quite well. So that is the visual customization options. You did see the bridge earlier that you get with the ship, so that is the Scimitar bridge. Let me just do a couple randomizes here so you can get a little bit of idea of what you can get. You can see here also the I'm not sure what these are called. Top sensors, maybe? Yeah, the top sensors. There's a couple different options there. That one looks pretty cool. Again, the Tailor top sensors look really nice. Let's do a few more randomizes here. Ooh, that one's pretty cool. But definitely a lot of really cool looks. I think all the pieces from the different variants of the ship fit together nicely. That's nice. I like that with the blue lighting as well. Very cool. All right, so that is the visuals. Very nice ship. Cryptic did a very good job making this a faithful, representation of the actual canon ship. But, okay. Now it is time for some action. Let's head back out into space, and let's actually get this in action and see how this build actually performs, and also how the Crystalline Energy Torpedo performs. Yeah, and let's turn back on my Iconian Shields visuals. So you can see there, I do like kind of the coloring matches with the brown, I think, so I like that a lot. Ooh, a Tal Shiar adapted battlecruiser, nice. All right, let's head out into the Delta Quadrant, and we'll head over to Argala, and yeah, we'll do a full Argala. We'll do it on advanced difficulty. I found from previous comments, people have recommended definitely to do it on advanced, just because, as you can see from the build that I'm using, it will. The normal difficulty is just no challenge at all. So, oops, let's head up here to Argala. Yeah, the normal difficulty is just no challenge at all. It's hard to get even a, the enemies die so quickly. It's hard to even get a good representation of how the build actually performs. Let's speed it up here. After the Argala run, I will take a look at the parser and see how the damage breakdown is, and then also I will do an ISA run and also take a look at the parser for that, so you can get a good idea of how the actual, what the damage breakdown is for all the abilities. And in particular, I'm taking a look at the Crystalline Energy Torpedo just to see if it does perform well enough to justify that slot. From my testing that I've done so far, I would say that it does justify it. It does seem to outdamage a fifth a fifth dual beam bank, at least on the build that I'm using, but just with a few caveats to that, which is, you kind of have to sacrifice a lot in your build to fit in the torpedo spread, but it does seem to actually be worth it. And as you'll see, the Crystalline Energy Torpedo has a very cool visual effect. All right, let's launch a drone. Drone ships are very cool. You can see what it looks like there. It will actually change its shape once we engage the enemies. Let's cloak up. Looks like we got K's on. There you can see it just changed into a bird of prey. Pretty cool, huh? Those drone ships are pretty awesome. Alright, let's decloak. Give them a nice torp spread. Very cool looking torpedoes, those Crystalline Energy torpedoes. Let's cloak back up and prepare for the next round of ships here, which there they are. And I'm going to speed up and get to them here. And there we go. Very nice little torp spread there from the from the Crystalline Energy torpedoes. Very cool looking torpedo. If nothing else, the visuals are certainly impressive. There you can see the turn rate of the ship is definitely a disadvantage. Let's get that. Let's use attack team. Another nice torp spread going out there. Yeah, there's some good hits there. Let's head over to the next carrier. There's a nice little torp spread. Boom. So far, so good. I have to say, even though, I don't know, I've been mostly a beam user through most of my Star Trek career, I guess you could say. But I am really starting to like torpedoes. I do like them on my exotic damage science build, and you know, I'm starting to like it here too. It's just so fun to be able to launch those torpedoes. I mean, check that out. You can get some pretty impressive torp spreads. Yeah, I think the only disadvantage of torpedoes, or one of the disadvantages anyway, is that travel time. A lot of times in a certain situation, see, the torps didn't even make it there before the ship died. That is unfortunate, but it does happen quite often. And that's will honestly hurt the, you know, your DPS reading on your torps, because if everything dies before your torpedoes get there, okay, let's cloak up here for the final fight. And let's get the... But yeah, if your torps are always... If everything's dying before your torps actually hit, that's, you know, that's not good for your... for the DPS parsing, because in your damage breakdown, you'll see your torps don't contribute, honestly, as much as they could if it were like a longer battle where you had plenty of torp spreads going out. There we go. There is Argala advanced in the Scimitar using the Crystalline entity Torpedo. Let's go ahead and claim and warp out of here. As you can see, the build is very effective. I'm quite happy with it. I do like, certainly from the graphical visual representation, the torpedoes look fantastic. The torp spreads are very satisfying to fire out and see them hit the target. Yeah, so I am certainly enjoying that aspect of the torpedoes. But let's see how they actually perform here. I did parse that run. That was a 32k DPS Argala. And what I'm going to do here real quick, if you just give me a moment, is switch over to the, here we go. So you should see my Stow Combat Meter window, and yeah, you should be seeing that now in OBS. I brought that up, so I'm going to switch over there myself. And you can see, let's analyze the log here. And that was the run I just did, and I'm going to do the damage, detailed damage breakdown here. Oh, I gotta show this window in OBS, just give me a moment. There we go. So you now should just be seeing the damage breakdown of that run. And okay, so here we go. You can see my Beam Fire at Will 3 was my biggest damage contributor, and the dual anti-proton beam banks. So if I combine those together, that's giving me about a 14 to 15k DPS, and that's with 4 anti-proton beams. So each one's doing about, you know, 4 times 4 is 16, so a little 4, like 3.5-ish k. 3.5 to 4k DPS. Sorry, just doing a little bit of off-the-cuff math here, but each one of my dual beam banks is doing about, you know, 3.5-ish k DPS, whereas my Crystalline Energy Torpedo, so Torp Spread 3 was doing 2.2k, Torp Spread 1 was doing 1.3k. The actual torpedo itself wasn't obviously doing very much. It's 150. So again, about 3.5k. So very, very close to what another anti-proton beam bank would be doing. As you can see in that run, a lot of my torpedoes, a lot of the targets were dying right before the torpedoes were hitting, so I think this was slightly sampled. You know, this particular run, just how it worked out, I think the torpedo damage is being slightly underrepresented. I did have an earlier run where it was slightly better, but yeah, that's why you got to run multiple runs. I definitely need to run this over a period of time to actually get a true idea of how good this torpedo does on average. But so far it does seem to at least hold up to the point where it's not a damage loss to use this torpedo over a 5th dual beam bank. It is at least holding up. All right. So that is the damage breakdown of Argala. And let me just go ahead and make sure I turn these windows off and head back over to the game. All right, so far so good, performing quite well. 32k DPS build. The Crystalline torpedoes are at least on par with the dual beam banks so far. But let's also do this in a ISA run. That will be the true test. So whoops, let's go ahead and queue up for ISA. And where are you, ISA? Infected, the counter advanced. Let's go ahead and queue up for this, and I will be back as soon as the queue pops. Alright guys, the queue popped, and here we are. This is a pickup group, just keep that in mind. So, you know, anything could happen, could be great, could be terrible. That is the nature of pugs. Let's head in here and do some damage, see how things are going. You can see there the Valdor console very quickly got my shields back up after that they got drained there. I'll just have to let my beam rays take out that last sphere because I want to start heading over this way. Let's see if I can cloak up and get a little bit more of a damage bonus on this cube. And you can see they're already draining my shields. Alright. I didn't actually mean to pop my shield there. I definitely would have preferred to save that for once these spheres spawn, but here we go. Let's go ahead and use that. Let's use this. Let's put our decoy to reduce some damage. Let's focus our fire on the transformer. It's going down quick. Yeah, that Valdor console is really nice against Borg because you could get your shields up really fast after you know, after they get drained by there's a nice torp spread. But you know, after you get drained by those annoying tachyon beams from Borg, they drain your shields real fast nowadays. Ever since it was actually buffed. Ooh, I'm taking a lot of damage. Taking a lot of damage. I might have to pop. No, looks like I'm. There's a nice another torp spread going. Let's get some hazard emitters. Hopefully I can heal through this. Let's pop this because I want to get my cooldowns back as soon as possible. And there we go. I don't want to be shooting that. Please escape. Okay, let's cloak up here. Ooh, don't kill me, please. Don't kill me. Oh, this would be such a good go down fighting if I could get this here. Let's go and pop it. Let's pop everything. Let's get this. decloak, and let's heal up. Let's get into position. Let's get fleet support in here too, and get the max parse we can. You can see you dish out so much damage on this ship that Valdor console does massive work. I want to actually see at the end of the... Ooh, they got the nice bundle of spheres going there. But I want to see at the end of this fight how well or how much healing I actually got from that Valdor console. Nice torp spread there, making short work of these spheres. My singularity is charged, so if I need it, which I might actually do, quantum absorption is nice. I do pop that from time to time. Because here I am somewhat tanking both the gateway and the cube, which I honestly should not be doing. Taking a lot of damage. But, alright, let's focus in on this cube. Oh, he's tractoring me. Come on, cube. Can't turn. Let's head over here, stay nice and close to him. And head over to his rear arc here so I can get in some nice flanking bonus. And we'll just stay right up point blank to this guy. Nice torp spread again. Alright, let's get another attack pattern alpha. You can see with all those cooldown reduction traits, really helps, particularly all hands on deck, really helps getting your attack pattern alpha back quick. Ooh, some nice crits there to end it off. Definitely GG, man. I have been getting so lucky with pickup groups lately. I don't know what it is. But let's go to team. Oh, cool. Someone posted it into chat here. 62k DPS. Wow. That is a new record for me. 62k DPS, wow, that is the new record, holy cow. Well, I'm pretty happy, that's pretty exciting for me. I've never broke 60k before, holy cow. Okay, so definitely, I gotta take a look at this. Let's see the breakdown here. But definitely GG to that team, thank you very much for that group, that was a lot of fun. Alright, so now that has me really curious how the breakdown is. Very, very curious. Alright, so I am going to tab over here to back to my STO combat meter. Hold on, just give me a moment. I gotta go back to OBS and turn the window back on. SCM window. There it is. Whoops, let's analyze log here. All right, there we go. And so there it is. There's the 62k. Holy cow, that is my personal best record. I can't believe it. I got it with the Crystalline Energy Torpedo, go figure. All right, so player combat analysis. Let's take a look here at the actual damage breakdown. Let me see if I can again, I gotta add this window. Again, it is there. All right, very good. So you should be able to see the breakdown. I will switch over to my character. And let's take a look here. Ooh, I'm so excited. Sorry, I don't mean to get so excited, but damage record for me, that's exciting for me. Yes, I am a complete nerd, but I do find that very enjoyable because I'm always trying to improve myself and increase my damage numbers, and that's my best one yet. But let's take a look at the actual breakdown. So beam fire at will with my dual anti-proton beam banks was the top. That was 16k DPS. The banks, dual anti-proton beam banks by themselves did 9k. My pets, holy cow, 8.5k damage. That is really good. You can see the drone ships do pretty nice. I might have to see if there's more breakdown there, because I also did use fleet support, if I recall. Although the Romulan fleet support's not that great, but there it is. What else? These are my rear array fire at will 3. Okay, so here is the Crystalline Energy Torpedo. That came in at 4.8k. Dual anti-proton beam banks fire at will 2. Plasma explosions. So my plasma explosions for my consoles came in at 3k. Cutting beam came a little bit lower than that. Whoops, I just scrolled to the wrong guy. Sorry, let me go back to me. That's what was helping. Someone had concentrate firepower going. So there was a command ship in there, and they were using concentrate firepower, and that was helping me get out some high-yield torpedoes. Cool. So it did help my run. So that's teamwork. And I will definitely say if you do have a command ship, this torpedo does shine a lot more with concentrate firepower, of course. So something to keep in mind. If you do want to run this torpedo, you could definitely look towards more of a ship with some command seating. But Crystalline Energy Torpedo came in with another 1,300. Anything else? Not a whole lot. Plasma fires. Those are the plasma torpedoes. That must be from the drone ships. But, so let's break it down. That's about 25k DPS for the dual anti-proton beam banks for 4 of them. So it's about 6k or so per each beam bank. A little bit over that, a little over 6k per each beam bank. And my Crystalline Energy Torpedo did 4.8 plus 1.3. That's just over 6k, so pretty close there. So as I said, I mean, it's not a DPS loss, I don't think, by putting this on. And, you know, as you saw from my build, I'm not heavily invested into torpedoes in my skills. If I respect a little bit, I could probably bring that up a little bit. But my verdict on the Crystalline Energy Torpedo is it is quite good. It's not a DPS loss, but it's also not a huge DPS gain. It does have a very cool visual effect. So if you're going for visuals and you have enough tactical slots or bridge officer slots to support it, I'd say go for it. It's a nice torpedo, and it could be, it could be a net benefit. Particularly, I would say if you are using a command ship, that would be the best way to take advantage of the torpedo. In particular, if you're using like an intel ship with override subsystem safeties, I would say that's probably not the best use of the torpedo. If you're using override subsystem safeties, definitely go with those beams. They get hugely buffed by that ability. So, you know, like for intel ships, definitely stick with the beams, but for command ships, or if you don't have, you know, any specialty seating like here on the Scimitar, that torpedo seems to be at least marginally worth it. Yeah, so that is, I guess that's kind of my verdict there on the Crystalline Energy Torpedo. Now, why don't I go ahead and just give my final verdict on the ship itself. So the Scimitar, you know, what do I think overall? Still is a pretty fantastic ship. As you can see there, 62k DPS. It's no slouch in the DPS department. It still performs excellent. It does lack some of the, you know, the new whiz-bang features that you get on the New Tier 6 ships. It doesn't have any of the cool hybrid bridge officer seating with intel or command or pilot. But even without all of that, just the layout of the ship, the console, the drone pets, everything about the ship still stands up quite well for a Tier 5U ship. What else here? So the weapon layout is excellent. The bridge officer layout is excellent. Lots of flexibility with those universal slots. In this particular build, I did go with the tactical officer slots because so I could use the torp spread. But I've had other builds where I use engineering here. Also, those perform excellent. So you can have a couple different flavors of builds, and all perform well with this ship. So a lot of good advantages there. You know, the drone pets, that's an awesome advantage. And it's actually pretty tanky. As you saw with the Valdor console in there, it's a pretty tanky ship, honestly. So yeah, definitely recommend getting that Valdor console and slotting it in there. And like I said, I've even seen some tank builds out there that are pretty impressive. If you go all out engineering with your universal slots there, you can actually have quite a few engineering you know, quite a few engineering slots, bridge officer powers, and you can really take advantage and make this a tanky ship. Now, as far as disadvantages go, I think I've pretty much mentioned most of them. I think the biggest disadvantage at this point is the handling of the ship. That inertia rating is killer. It's really hard to maneuver this ship into position. It takes a lot of practice to get used to it. The turn rate is not the worst. You can live with the turn rate, but it's that inertia where that you're kind of sliding around. You just have to get used to piloting this thing. But once you do, you can overcome that disadvantage. The console it comes with is pretty gimmicky, like I said. That cloak, you know, firewall cloaked. It's really fun to do, don't get me wrong, but you'll find that other consoles just perform better in its place because it kind of has a long cooldown, it doesn't last very long, and it's a little bit gimmicky. So that's, I guess, a slight disadvantage of the ship. And I just think the other disadvantage is this, that it's starting to show its age. I mean, as powerful as this ship is, I would say I would probably recommend against buying it right now, just because there's so many rumors going around with, you know, the Tier 6 versions of all these ships coming out. They just came out with the Tier 6 dreadnoughts. They came out with the Tier 6 battle cruisers. They've just been coming out, and you know, they're also rumoring there's going to be another Tier 6 pack coming out with the Defiant, Burrell, and Tavaro. That might actually be the next pack that comes out, but if it, you know, probably very soon after that, I could see a flagship pack coming out with, you know, the Scimitar, the Odyssey, and the Bordeaux. I could very easily see that coming out very soon, and given the price, you know, still a pretty expensive ship, and you would have to buy the Tier 5U upgrade. So with all of that cost, is it worth it to buy it now? I would say just hold out for that Tier 6 version, honestly. That's what I would recommend. You know, if you have the patience, if you're not dying to get into one of these right now, yeah, just wait for that Tier 6 one. Which I definitely am. Man, if they put a Tier 6 ship out there and put some intel slots on here, holy freaking cow, this ship would decimate. Yeah, Tier 6 Scimitar with intel. Oh man, it would just own, it would wreck. That'd be a definite buy for me. Man, if they come up with a Tier 6 version of this, no doubt I will be buying that on day one, and I will be doing a full review of that sucker. As you can see, even this thing still performs well. Once this is brought up to a full Tier 6 status, you know, holy cow, this is going to shoot right back up to the top of the pack. No doubt about it. But yeah, so that is my build video, everyone. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it very much. I hope you found it helpful and informative. I do try to make it informative. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave them down in the comments below. Yeah, and if you have any questions about the ship, or if you have any questions or comments about the Crystalline Energy Torpedo, like I said, if you, particularly if you have any advice on, you know, what skills actually affect this torpedo and what I could do to help optimize it a bit more. Because I do like this torpedo. I will stick with it for a while and do, you know, do some more runs and just see how it averages out. When I get a little bit better with, you know, optimizing my torp spreads and using it at the right time, I get a little bit better at my piloting with it. I think it will slightly edge out just putting another dual anti-proton beam bank in there, which is kind of the key. I mean, if I am going to use that slot for something, I do want it to be an actual boost. So, so there it is. So that is all, everyone. Again, thank you for watching. And I hope you guys are all getting hyped for Season 11's just around the corner. I will have a bunch of videos on that for sure. Yeah, as soon as that comes out, I will be checking out all of that new content. Definitely looking forward to that. And yeah, I'll see you then. Get hyped for Season 11. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.